Stage 19, the last mountain stage, and it was a doozy. Oh man, it was hardcore. So going in, you have basically two choices from a team approach. Either you have your GC type contender stay in the peloton and then pick a point to attack near the end or on the tourmalet, or you try to get a teammate out into the breakaway, and then potentially, if they're strong enough, they can try to make it all the way to the finish. Otherwise, as they fade and the peloton rides up to them, that GC contender has a teammate that can help them out, help pace them, help get them water, whatever. There's something like 4,700 total meters of climbing in the whole stage today. So what, 14, 15,000 feet of climbing? So this is a test of just pure endurance. Sagan, right from the get-go, he, as he said, landed on his ass. So he's got a hematoma in his gluteus, and you could just see he was really uncomfortable on the bike. And Sagan was basically suffering from the first couple kilometers. The cutoff for the stage, something like 40 minutes. And near the end, he was about 30, 32 minutes down. So seemingly he and Demar made it through, but pretty close. And Sagan's got to be hurting. It was probably near him abandoning, but he was able to get into the gruppetto and survive. But how much will he have for the time trial, which he doesn't necessarily care about? But then how much will he have left for the sprint finish on the Champs-Élysées? Still, he's had a very successful tour, but man, it just shows you, for somebody like Quintana, for somebody like Adam Yates, now Peter Sagan, when you crash, it just really takes the wind out of your sails. And like writers have noted, it's not just that initial scratch or bruising or road abrasion that messes you up. One, it's hard to sleep because then you're in pain during the night, so that affects your recovery. And then two, as your body expends energy and resources to rebuild that damaged tissue, that saps whatever energy you can put into cycling. And then as you adjust to that, then you can start to have other things happen. So your immune system can get out of whack, or because you're not riding with the right ergonomics, then you can get your body out of alignment, and then you start feeling knee pain or ankle pain or lower back pain. So then it just becomes a waterfall effect to the point where, you have to abandon. You had three go into the breakaway: Dillier, Postelberger, and Godin. And then you had people like Danny Martinez and Pierre Roland trying to get out into the breakaway to support their team, or just to support that breakaway to see how long it could survive. Drapic was still trying to get into the breakaway. So it was a little unsettled for about the first 25 or 30 kilometers while people were still trying to get into the breakaway. Meanwhile, the rest of the peloton and the GC were pretty much sitting back and just riding a good steady pace. Youngles and Adam Yates were at the front of the peloton with about 183 kilometers to go. So 15, 17 kilometers into the stage. And they were able to get over into the breakaway. So did Kangert. Got to give these people credit. Bob Youngles down in GC. What is he, top 15? He's trying to be aggressive. Adam Yates, disappointment. Got dehydrated and fell way back on one stage. Almost had a chance to win and crashed on the descent. Has taken body damage, is bruised. He's still trying to fight. And then here you have Kangert, who was in one of those long breakaway solo attacks, who also got caught. They're still fighting. Got to give credit to this whole Tour de France and everybody in the peloton. Everybody is giving it their all. Even in yesterday's sprint, Taylor Phinney finished in the top 10. And he's finished in the top 10 two times. Now, part of that, I think, is because the main sprinters like Gaviria and Groenewegen and Kittel are out. Because normally, let's say Taylor Phinney would be back around 20, 25 places. Still, though, pretty impressive for more of a time trial rider that even he's fighting and is near the end on a flatter stage. So everybody's giving it their all. And as Taylor Phinney said, you can be going fast and think you have a shot, until the guys who can go into hyperspeed just, blow away from you. And you can really see how small the margin of error is in the Tour de France. I mean, either you're a time trialist, or you're more of a pure climber, or you're more of a sprinter. And so if you're going to be a sprinter, you have to commit to that. Because even if you're like a Taylor Phinney, who's more of a time trialist, and you think you've got a shot, nope, they pull away from you in that last 50 meters. Or if you think you can be a climber, but you're really not strong enough, yeah, you'll hang until the last climb, and you'll be in the peloton until the last climb, but then you crack and you'll lose 5, 10, 15 minutes on every stage. So it just shows that margin of error. If you really want to try to win, you have to categorize yourself and then train to specialize at that particular skill set, or have the right body type for that particular skill set. Otherwise, you're pretty much just part of the peloton that is lucky to win 1 or 2 stages in like a 7 or 10 year career, meaning in the Tour de France. This is why then they try to win a stage in the smaller Tour of Switzerland, Tour of California, Tour Down Under, that sort of thing, to round out their career and justify their salary. So Alaphilippe also was trying to get himself out into the breakaway to basically keep defending his King of the Mountain polka dot jersey. So with about 180 to 175 kilometers to go, he was also being very aggressive on the front of the peloton to try to get across. Some within the peloton were still sort of fighting to contain him. And then just for the GC contenders, they're also working to contain any competition, to keep the pace so high, none of the other GC teams, Dumoulin's team, Bardet's team, Roglic's team, where none of them feel like they can take over control of the peloton. Finally, around 166 kilometers to go, the peloton shuts it down. And that's when the gap once again begins to grow to the breakaway. And there's basically 2 breakaways. There's the lead group, and then there's 2 pursuing groups. The second pursuing group is about 50 seconds back, and that has Alaphilippe and Barguil in it. And then the second pursuing group, but the third group that's chasing overall, that has Mollema and Nieve in it. Nieve, the guy who got caught near the finish back in the Alps. And they're about 1:10 down to the front leaders. The peloton is then 2 minutes and 10 seconds back from the leaders. Right around the time the peloton was settling down, somebody made a little attack. And basically 2 or 3 people came up and admonished them and said, "What the hell are you doing?" So this is for you to decide. You think about it. How do you feel about somebody attacking at that point? So there's basically 2 points of view. One point of view says, who cares? It's that cyclist's right, because they're not in the GC and it's not really their concern, whatever that does to Geraint Thomas. Another point of view says, no, that's bad form, because you already had your chance. There's been a breakaway right from the get-go. Then you've had 2 or 3 other groups try to go do this breakaway. And now there's the 3 groups out in front. So why didn't you go then? And now when everybody's decided to kind of chill and go take a natural break, go take a whiz, go take a leak, take on some food, now you decide to attack? That's bullshit. How is one rider or 1 or 2 riders going to bridge 1 to 2 minutes anyway on their own? So it's kind of stupid, and it seemed like they almost laughed it off, and it shut down, and they just stayed there in the peloton. 160 kilometers to go. The gap from the breakaway is 4 minutes 10 and growing a little bit. So here's something to consider. So the peloton has settled down. The gap is about 4 minutes 10 and growing. The breakaway is settling down, meaning the lead breakaway. And now you have those 2 pursuing groups. So here's the thing to think about. So the breakaway, the initial breakaway, had to expend so much energy to break free of the peloton. In turn, the peloton was expending so much energy to try to contain the front, contain the GC contenders from challenging, and then containing the overall breakaway to sort of prevent somebody who's not too far down on GC and a couple teammates from escaping. That just puts pressure on everyone too early in the stage. So now those breakaways that left a little later, the ones that are stuck in the middle, they can't settle down. Because if they settle down too much, they'll fall back to the peloton. Or if they don't keep pedaling harder, they'll just be stuck in the middle for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kilometers where they might just burn out. So they have to keep pushing it until they eventually can close on the front lead breakaway. Then they can settle down. Does it balance out? Meaning, while the initial breakaway was expending all that energy to break free, the people that eventually will end up in the second or third or fourth chase groups, they're still in the peloton. They're still getting a slipstream off of the peloton. They're still being supported by the overall mass of cyclists in the peloton. So then when they eventually break free themselves, a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, does that output of energy even out, or do they end up expending more energy than if they had just gotten into the initial breakaway? Do you see what I mean? That's kind of what's going on. So about 160 kilometers, 150 kilometers, you have the peloton has settled down, you have the lead group has settled down, but these guys in the middle are still having to push it and ride 2, 3, 4 kilometers per hour faster to try to catch up so they can finally settle down themselves. Youngles is in that breakaway, and he's only 5 minutes down. So Katusha, to protect their rider, they start pushing at the front. Katusha's rider is Zakharin. This is helping Sky. They can basically sit back while Katusha is pushing. And for Katusha, keep in mind, they only have 4 riders left in their team from the original 8. So the breakaway is down to only 3 minutes and 30-second lead with about 140 kilometers to go. And this is because Katusha is pushing that hard pace on the front. Now, here's the mix of some of the riders out in that breakaway. So you have Adam Yates, you have Bob Jungels, you have Alaphilippe, Warren Barguil, Kangert, Nieve, Chavanel, and Mollema. So Mollema trying to redeem, going for a stage win since this has been a disappointing tour. Nieve, who was out in front, who got caught, they're still trying to take a shot. Chavanel just kind of trying to go out in a bit of glory. Kangert, the guy who almost won, long breakaway, rode solo and then got caught by Quintana. Barguil, disappointing tour overall, but still fighting. Alaphilippe, of course, trying to protect his king of the mountain. Jungels, only 5 minutes down on GC, trying to make a move. And then Adam Yates, who crashed and then got dehydrated and lost time, also going for the stage win or just trying to make some kind of a move. And for Warren Barguil, here's the thing. Early in this year's tour, he was trying to get in almost every breakaway, kind of like a Thomas de Gendt or some of these other guys do. The problem is, by expending so much energy trying to get into every single breakaway, now you have nothing left when there's finally a good chance for you to win. Barguil probably needs to reevaluate. Also, he might just be he might be having a down month where his biorhythms and his fatigue is just worse than normal. But look at Alaphilippe on the other side. Alaphilippe picked more strategic moments or tactical moments to attack. Alaphilippe got the polka dot, and for the last 4 or 5 days, he attacks early, gets the king of the mountain, and then when he sees that there's still another mountain to go and he's fading, rather than fight and push himself to that point of exhaustion, he just settles back and rides in, and meanwhile he's got the polka dot and it's all good. Near that first climb, the Col de Aspin, there's like 18 riders now in the breakaway, including those names I just gave you. Alaphilippe gets over the Aspen first. He's securing his king of the mountain. Warren Barguil goes over second, more for pride and to give himself a chance, because should Alaphilippe fade and should Warren Barguil suddenly ride great, Warren Barguil mathematically could take the King of the Mountain if he were to win, going over first or maybe second on one of these mountain stages today. So 133 kilometers to go. Katusha still at the front of the peloton, still pushing. And they have the breakaway at 3 minutes 10 seconds. Sagan is really struggling. You can see he's uncomfortable on his bike. Solar from Movistar, he starts trying to push the peloton a little bit and even tries to break free. Almost like he's trying to do a slingshot move to get up in front of the peloton and maybe even ride all the way to the breakaway to then help either Landa and or Quintana when they ride up to him. The teammates of like Bob Jungels and Adam Yates, they're getting kind of pissed off at Team Katusha for pushing the peloton. But meanwhile, oh well, tough shit, right? Because Katusha is trying to protect their team leader Zakharin's place, so they could care less if they're helping Sky or any of the other teams get to the finish. They're more concerned about their own personal team goals. So even though it's frustrating, logically that makes sense. If the roles were reversed, would Adam Yates or Bob Jungel or Alaphilippe's teams slow down the peloton? Things are pretty steady and still at about that 3 minute gap to the breakaway. And now they're hitting the Col de Tourmalet. The breakaway is actually up to 4 minutes over the peloton. And Katusha is still at the front of the peloton doing the pacing. AG2R starts to push the peloton. They got Latour there. They got Bardet there. At one point, Katusha and Landa try to go off the front of the peloton about 10 kilometers from the top. The breakaway is sitting at about 3 minutes 15 seconds in front of them. And Mollema is struggling. So Mollema's hopes to try to win the stage fading very quickly. And Zakharin, he's still hanging in there. Bardet goes. Katusha with Landa, they try to go off the front of the peloton with about 10 kilometers to go from the top of the Tourmalet. And at this point, the breakaway is about plus 3 minutes, 15 seconds in front of them. And Mollema is struggling. He's dropping out the back. Sagan and Demar are about 10 minutes off the back of the peloton at this point. So remember, they're just hitting the Col de Tourmalet, and they're 10 minutes back. So if Sagan cannot stabilize things, he only can come in about 40 minutes behind the stage winner, or he will get eliminated from the race. He's calling out for the gruppetto, and he's got 2 or 3 teammates with him trying to get into that gruppetto that's beginning to form. Bardet starts to go out of the peloton, and you have Landa, Zakharin together. Fuglsang also tries going, and he's marked by Ralpha Maika. So again, no one is just sitting back. They realize this is their last chance to try to move up in GC or win the stage. So here, Bardet's being aggressive. Fuglsang even is giving it a shot. Ralpha Maika is giving it a shot. And even this Zakharin is giving it a shot. Yates and Nieve are doing a lot of work to pace that front breakaway group. And are they doing too much work? Because there's that kind of like Adam Yates did on the stage that he almost won, where he crashed and Alaphilippe nipped him and then ended up winning the stage. In that case, Yates mostly sat on the back of the breakaway and only paced it when he had to, just to keep them from getting pissed off at him. Right now, today, he and Nieve are doing a lot of the pacing for the breakaway. And is this going to come back to haunt him? Bardet, Zakharin, Landa, and Maika, they get out 1 minute in front of the yellow jersey group. Landa goes, and Maika follows. And Bardet and Zakharin drop back. They can't keep that pace. So basically, Landa and Maika, they are only about 1 minute to that front lead group. And then you have Bardet and Zakharin falling 20-25 seconds back to Landa. And this is about 2 miles from the top of the Tourmalet. And eventually Bardet and Zakarin fight their way back up to Landa and Micah as they are closing on that front lead group. Alaphilippe is working to stay in that front breakaway group as they near the top of the Col de Tourmalet. One, so that Alaphilippe can get those King of the Mountain points, but he's also trying to stay there to help his teammate Youngles. So you have Alaphilippe, Youngles, and Nieve approaching the top of the Col de Tourmalet with the rest of that breakaway lead group. Yates starts to fade. So once again, Yates tries, but his legs and endurance are not quite there, or the fatigue has just set in too much, or too much trying to recover from those injuries from his crash and dehydration. Yates is being caught by the Landa group, and they are about 37 seconds to the lead group, and then that is 2 minutes 50 seconds to Yellow, which has Latour in it, the white jersey, the young rider with the white jersey. So Alaphilippe goes over the Tourmalet first, gets the King of the Mountains. So you're looking at Alaphilippe, Youngles, Kangert, Nieve, Barguil, and Izagirre. That's your lead group. And then behind them, you have Landa and Micah and Bardet and Zakarin following. And then about almost 3 minutes back, you have the yellow group with all the rest of the GC contenders. And at this point, the GC group is very small. Thank all the top 10, 11 GC with a couple more hanging in there. Approaching the final climbs. And remember, this is sort of the step. It goes up, little descent, goes up again, very little descent, almost like a false valley, and then the final little kick before the long descent to the finish. So this is about 55 kilometers to go to the finish. And the group out front is all coming together. And they're 3 minutes, 20 seconds ahead of the yellow group. Landa, this is where Movistar again, pretty smart tactically and good execution, and also a decently strong team. This rider in Movistar, Amator, he is burning himself out to pace that breakaway group that's all come together. So Landa and Micah and Bardet and Zakarin are in with Alaphilippe and Youngles, Kangert, Nieve, Barguil, and Izagirre. And he's pacing them and mainly focusing on pacing Landa across that last little valley before they hit these final climbs. And as they're approaching the beginning of these final climbs, he's done. So pretty much Landa's on his own. Yates is fading. He's now being caught and passed by the yellow jersey group. Out of that lead group, Bardet tries attacking, and Landa and Micah respond. So they ride up. They've got a little trio. Bardet, Landa, and Micah riding. Fuglsang, who was hanging in there, he's beginning to crack, but he's holding on. He's at the back of the yellow group. And remember, that yellow group, it was about 3 minutes, 20 seconds back to the leaders. Barguil, he's holding on. He cracks and he starts to fall out of the lead group. And then when it hits a little bit of a flat, or the gradient flattens out a little bit, he catches back up. But then a minute, 2 minutes later, when they pick up speed or when the gradient kicks up, Barguil's out the back again. So he's still there fighting. So again, everybody is giving it their all. And this is one thing I can appreciate. And I hope anybody who's even just a casual fan of something like the Tour de France, these guys are doing everything. Because it's easy maybe for a casual fan to say, oh, why doesn't somebody just attack? Why doesn't somebody just go faster? Okay, well, try it. These guys are trying to attack. They are trying to go faster. The problem is the other rivals are matching them. Or, yeah, they attack. They push themselves into the red zone, and then they crack, and then a rival attacks them, and now they drop out and they lose time. So they're all exhausted, and or they're all sort of equally strong or equally not strong. About 45, 48, 50 kilometers to go. Alaphilippe is falling out of that lead group. And Valverde is dropping out of the yellow jersey group, so he's basically done. And you can see the pain on the faces at this point. I mean, normally the riders have an implacable look on their face, or it's imperceptible to tell whether or not they're really feeling pain or not. No, most of them now, you can see they are in pain. They are just trying to get to the frickin' finish of this stage and finish this frickin' race off. Only a couple like Roglic and Geraint Thomas still look fresh. And actually, Roglic, through this whole third week of the race, he almost looks the strongest of all of them. Froome has shown pain. Froome has shown fatigue. Even when Froome drops and then he normally can kick back, no, he drops and he stays back. And even when he spins it up, it takes him a while to close the gaps. Dumoulin, doesn't show great pain, but you can see his face. He's gasping for air and he's pushing as hard as he can. Ralph Maika, the last few stages, looks like he's about ready to keel over or faint or just throw up or something, and he's just turning himself inside out to try to get over these last few kilometers of these last few climbs. And Bardet has had saliva and spittle hanging down to his chest, where he's so exhausted or in a zombified state, he can't even think to take a water bottle and squirt it off of his face. Or it's so gelatinous, he can't even spit it off of his lips. It's just hanging off of his face. Gesink is pushing and controlling the peloton. And this is Lotto-Jumbo's team. This is Roglic and Kruijswijk's teammate. So Gesink is dropping the lead to the breakaway leaders. So what was it? The leaders had like 3 minutes, 20 seconds. Well, in about 3-4 kilometers, he's knocked it down to 2:23. So there's only 2 minutes and 23 seconds now from Maika, Bardet, and Landa back to what's there of the GC. So Gesink kicking ass, doing what he needs to do for Roglic and Kruijswijk. 43 kilometers to go. Barguil is bravely hanging in there. But like I said, he's wavering back and forth. Nieve starting to crack. So you had Yates cracked before. Now Yates' teammate Nieve, he's cracking. So just too much pace, too much speed, too much fatigue. It's whittling this thing down to the very strongest in this year's race. Gesink done. But before Gesink is done, he got the gap down to 1 minute 45 seconds. Landa and these guys better start kicking ass, start picking up the pace. The problem is they can't. Landa, Bardet, Maika, and the remaining guys out front, they just can't increase that gap. So it's there at 1 minute 45. Gesink is done. He hits the wall. Sky takes over, pacing the core peloton for the yellow jersey. 35 kilometers to go. Kruijswijk puts in an attack, and he starts pulling away. And this is around the second portion of the last climb. So they've gone up the initial climb, they've done the descent, and now this is the second portion of that last climb. And it's down to 1 minute 30 to what remains of the leaders. The yellow group is very small, but you still have Latour in there. You have the other Izagirre brother, because the other Izagirre brother is in that lead breakaway group with Landa and those guys. You got Pozzovivo. You got Dan Martin, of course, Dumoulin, Roglic, so the same core. Quintana's still in there, but Quintana's at the back. Looks like Quintana might be paying for, one, his unlucky crash yesterday, and then two, putting out so much energy the day prior to win the stage on the Col de Portet. Landa and Bardet go out from this lead group. And this is about 33, 34 kilometers from the finish. But Maika follows. So now the lead group is being parsed down. Landa, Bardet go, only Maika can follow. So they are the new leaders. Now here's the thing that sucks. Too bad Nibali crashed out of the race. Because imagine what Nibali could have done. One, Nibali might have won the stage where he crashed out, because if he stayed in that front group, he might have beaten Geraint Thomas, he might have had a better kick, and he might have at least won a stage. But look at both of the Izagirre brothers. You got one in the yellow jersey group, and then you have a minute 30 or so out in front in the lead group. Those are Nibali's teammates. So they could have been setting Nibali up for something big in this particular stage, especially if Nibali is a really good descender. It's really unfortunate if we think of the GC, Nibali could have been fighting right now for second, third, or fourth place. Pozzovivo, again, is hanging in there. Dumoulin puts in a test attack. Quintana hurting. Bernal contains. So Bernal kind of rides up to Dumoulin. Froome and Thomas and the rest follow, and then they all come back together. But then Dumoulin puts in another test kick. So it goes Dumoulin, and then Thomas, and then Roglic, and then Dan Martin is back a little bit with Pozzovivo. And then Bernal and Froome are sort of pacing a little bit back. So again, Froome looks fatigued, too many races. But to give Froome credit, the guy won the Tour de France, he won the Volta, he won the Giro, and now he's trying to go 4 for 4, and it's finally catching up. It's finally catching up to him. Kruijswijk goes. He gets out in front. Kruijswijk again being aggressive. So these two guys, Kruijswijk and Roglic, these guys are having a damn good tour. So Kruijswijk gets out about 26 seconds in front of the yellow jersey group. A little later, around 32 kilometers to go, Dan Martin kicks and he gets out in front of the yellow jersey group, but he's only able to get out about 7 seconds. Roglic goes and Froome is able to follow because Froome is trying to protect his second place position, or I take it back, his third place position. Roglic catches up to Dan Martin, and Dan Martin is dropped. And Roglic is able to drop Froome, even though Froome is trying to spin up and stay with him. He's falling back a little bit. So you got Roglic, Dumoulin, and Thomas together about 6 miles from the top. And they ride up to Kruijswijk, who was 25 or so seconds out. They ride up to him. Froome is alone. Froome is isolated. He's back. Bernal, Egan Bernal, that 21-year-old for Sky, he's back with Dan Martin. So he's trying to close up to Froome to try to help Froome get over this last climb. Your leaders still out in front, barely. You have Landa, Bardet, Micah, and then Zakarin at the back, dropped off the back a bit. And they only have a 35-second buffer to the yellow. So it was 3 minutes plus, then 2 minutes or so, 2.5 minutes. Then it was a minute something. Now it's down to 35 seconds. So they are just fading. They don't have it. And they're realizing it. And so the whole vibe changes. They essentially, you can see the air go out of their pace. And so it goes from trying to move up in GC to let's just try to win the stage. So maybe we should conserve our energy because these guys are only 35 seconds behind us. Also, they're probably just exhausted. They pass Kangert and then Jungels. So Jungels and Kangert hung in the lead group, and now they're fading. They're being passed by the yellow jersey leaders, by Dumoulin, Roglic, Thomas, and Kruijswijk. Quintana, it's catching up to him. Quintana dropped out. He was 3 minutes behind the yellow jersey group. Then it was 3:15, then 3:20, then 3:30. When they went over the Col de Tourmalet, he was over 4 minutes back. So Quintana is going to be lucky to stay in the top 10. But look at it from his point of view, right? Do you want to come in 8th or 9th or 10th or even 5th in the Tour de France and that's it and no stage win? Or do you say, I get the stage win, but because of it, I might barely stay into 9th or 10th place, or I might drop to 11th or 12th or 13th? I don't know. It's kind of like that adage, right? In another sport, Is it better to just kind of have a mediocre regular season, get hot to get barely into the playoffs, and then be hot in the playoffs to win a championship? Or is it better to have a great regular season, be in like first place in the division or the conference, get into the playoffs, and then get upset in, let's say, the second round? That's why maybe there should be two different championships. There should be a regular season championship, and then there should be the playoff championship. Because how often do you have a team, barely get in as like the last team to get into the playoffs, the last team to qualify, and then they just get hot and they get lucky and then they win 2 games in a row or 3 games in a row. But then everybody goes, yeah, but look, in the regular season, you were 15-15, where other teams were, 25-5 kind of a thing, and then just had a bad game and were knocked out. So the leaders gap is dropping and dropping and dropping. It was down to 35 seconds, and it's decreasing even from that. So any hope of Micah or Bardet or Landa really gaining time in GC to move up, that's gone. All they can really hope for now is to hold on for the stage win. 3 miles from the top of the last climb, Kruijswijk tries going again. And you've got the yellow group, which is Bernal, Thomas, Froome, Roglic, Dumoulin, Dan Martin, Jungels. They've picked up Jungels, Pozzovivo, and I believe Izagirre. Or it was Izagirre and not Pozzovivo. Micah desperately goes away from Bardet and Landa. He's trying to get the stage win because they're almost going to be caught. Bardet and Landa try to follow Micah. Izagirre, he cracks out of the yellow group. Kruijswijk goes again. So really, Kruijswijk has been more aggressive than his teammate Roglic overall. But Roglic has looked the fresher and the strongest near the final part of the stages. So it's almost more like Kruijswijk is trying to get buffer so that should he crack, or should Roglic and Thomas and the rest of the yellow group catch up to him, then he can just pace and then hope to maybe get a final kick for some kind of a stage win. Micah is all alone about a mile from the top of the last crest. Roglic now goes out of the yellow group, and everybody follows him. And he rides up to Landa and Bardet. So essentially now all you have on the front is Micah trying to hold on, getting ready to crest over the top of the last climb. You got Landa and Bardet who are trying to close on him, and here comes Roglic right up from that 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, and he's right up there with him. And everybody else, Dumoulin and Thomas and those guys, are following to the best of their ability. Froome is just trying to pace and defend. And actually, Froome at this point is just trying to pace and defend off of Roglic more so than to protect Froome, or more so than to protect Thomas. It's more about protecting his own, his own third place right now. Bardet and Roglic go again. And Froome just tries to do that spin move that he has. He just spins and spins and spins to just try to close. But you can see he is really fatigued. He's just trying to hold on. And it's funny, Bardet is clearly fatigued too, but he's also still continuing to try to fight. So everybody, no one's holding anything back. No one can say, oh, somebody should have done something. They're doing everything they can. Dumoulin follows Bardet and Roglic. And by the way, Geraint Thomas, he's just marking. And this is kind of the pisser once you're in yellow. You just let everybody else around you burn themselves out, and you just mark. And then you can even save energy and then do that little kick and win the stage, which is like just rubbing salt in everybody else's wounds. And that's exactly what Geraint Thomas is doing. He's conserving his energy while everybody else is doing all these attacks and counterattacks and spinning or turning themselves into the red zone or turning themselves inside out. Geraint Thomas knows all he has to do is just mark and pace. Micah only has about 8 or 10 seconds. And Micah is just dying. So it's almost descent time. They're almost there at the final crest. So you've got Roglic, you got Thomas and Dumoulin, and then the rest are back a little bit. You got Bardet back a little bit. You got Landa back a little bit. Dan Martin's back. Froome's back a little bit. And Zakarin. On the downside. Oh, and Quintana is over 4 minutes back. So they go over the top. And Roglic starts kicking it. Roglic is kicking ass. And Micah he's out in front, but Roglic is closing it down. So it was like a 10-second lead, 8 seconds, 7 seconds. Roglic is out, and Roglic is getting anywhere from like a 10-foot gap on the person who's behind him, which was Dumoulin. And then sometimes Roglic was getting it up to 20, 30 feet. So he is a very good descender. And again, he seems to be the freshest of everybody. Kruijswijk puts in more attacks in the final few kilometers, but then Roglic selectively chooses when he's going to attack. And when he does, he sustains it and he looks fresher the entire time. Zakarin is at the edge. This dude needs to learn how to descend. But apparently he crashed in the Giro and broke his pelvis. And so now he has a double whammy. One, he has bad technique, and two, he's rattled or nervous about descending. Okay, at one point, Zakarin locks up his brakes and slides for about 3 or 4 feet before he can stabilize himself to get through a turn. Because Roglic is kicking it. And the thing is the commentators are thinking, oh, because you guys caught up to Micah, everybody's going to chill. No, Roglic is not chilling. He's weighing the risk of crashing and losing his GC to go for the freaking stage win, time bonus, whatever, to even gain time. And this is the thing I was wondering, is anybody going to go over the top with like a 10 or 15 or 20 second buffer and then keep it on the descent? No, he actually went over with Thomas and Dumoulin and Froome and all these guys. He's building it up on the descent, just from pure descending power and daring. They're getting strung out. So you got Dumoulin 10, 15, 20 feet behind Roglic, and then each person, like you got Geraint Thomas in third, he's like 8 or 10 or 15 feet behind Dumoulin. But you got Froome towards the ladder third, and then you got Zakarin at the back, and he's slowly getting dropped. He goes from being like 100 feet, 200 feet from the back, and then all of a sudden he can't even see them as they go around the bend in front of him. He's like 300, 400 feet back. Roglic gets himself a 2-second gap. With 9 kilometers to go, Roglic has a 5-second gap. So they are starting to lose him going around the bends. And they can't see what line he's taking to copy and mimic the line that he's taking. So now he can even get a bigger gap. 5 kilometers to go to the finish. He has 9 or 10 seconds. So he's potentially going to take... he's potentially going to knock Froome out of third. Because Froome only has 16 seconds on him. And there's a time bonus for the finish. So no one is helping Froome or Dumoulin. Geraint Thomas, again, he's just coasting when he can coast. And he's just marking the guys in front of him. He's just right there on Dumoulin's wheel. Because, hey, why should he do the work? And all the energy he's saving now, maybe he can use it to win at the finish, or he can use it in tomorrow's time trial to solidify his yellow jersey. So Dumoulin is asking for help. Dumoulin is trying to push. No one's helping him out. Finally, Froome gets up in front of Dumoulin, and Froome paces for a while. But either because Froome is fatigued, Froome is not a great descender himself, or he just can't hang, and Dumoulin finally tells him, get the hell out of the way. Within like 1 kilometer, Dumoulin's back, pacing everybody again. And once again, Geraint Thomas is just chilling, and then everybody else is just trying to hang in there. And Zakarin and Kruijswijk are like 5 seconds, 10 seconds off the back. They're being dropped. Roglic, as they start to hit the flats with like 3 or 4 kilometers to go to the finish, he has a 10, 15 second gap. And with the time bonus, he's going to be threatening Dumoulin's place. So at the finish, Roglic frickin' kicking ass all the way to the finish. Roglic comes in 19 seconds ahead. And little shitty Geraint Thomas, depending on how you look at it, but I can't say that, but I just say it in the sense of all the effort that these other guys have put in. It's just shitty in the sense that he was able to conserve his energy. Sure enough, Geraint Thomas gets second. So he even gets a little like 6-second time bonus to give himself even a little bit more buffer going into the time trial. And all the rest, Bardet, I believe, got third. Anyway, all the rest, 19 seconds down. Zakarin and Kruijswijk, they came in around 10 or 12 seconds behind Dumoulin and those guys. So they almost lost as much time that Roglic gained on Dumoulin and Thomas. That's almost how much time they lost on the descent themselves. So, okay, think about this now. Now, here's your GC just for the top few. Okay, you got Geraint Thomas, yellow. 2 minutes, 5 seconds behind Geraint Thomas is Dumoulin. 2:24 down is Roglic. So there's only 19 seconds separating Dumoulin and Roglic. So this TT is going to be freaking huge because all freaking Roglic has to do is beat Dumoulin by like 20 seconds and he can get himself on the podium and steal second from Dumoulin. Dumoulin, in turn, better ride the time trial of his life to just freaking keep second. They might as well forget getting first, because what's the odds that Geraint Thomas is going to ride such a shitty time trial? He's going to lose 2:05. And then you still have Froome there a little bit behind Roglic. So Froome has to ride the freaking time trial of his life to try to get into third. So, no, this is pretty hardcore. And then just to kind of give an idea, Youngles and Izagirre, it looks like they came in like 2 minutes, like a minute 30, minute 45, 2 minutes after Roglic. So that's how much time they lost over the last kilometer or two of the last mountaintop. And then basically, I don't know how hard they pushed on the descent. They probably didn't push it as hard as Roglic, so they lost some time there. But just to kind of give you an idea of the time loss, Quintana, he's like probably almost 5 minutes down. Anyway, this was a great stage. Once again, the tour delivers. And once again, you may casually look at this and think, well, why didn't somebody just do this? And why didn't somebody do that? Frick that. Everybody did everything they could. And this is just the way it is. And the strongest and the most lucky at the right place and the right time are the ones that are doing this. But I mean, usually a lot of these places are already solidified and there's very little movement going into the last time trial. There's all kinds of potential here between Roglic, Dumoulin, and Froome for the whole thing to get shooken up. And where, like, let's say Dumoulin could drop even maybe out of the top three if he crashes or something like that. So anyway, going into the TT, great tour. Enjoy, everybody.